Hi, Swetha. Welcome to the Captain's Podcast. Thank you so much for taking time out. And I really appreciate. It's morning for you there.
Yes, it is morning
Yes.
here in Austin, Texas. Yes.
So you're based in Austin, Texas, right? So
Yes.
I see a lot of people moving in there. Elon Musk and most prominent people are following him. We see that Silicon Valley might come up there. Oh, what is the secret? What are you seeing?
I so my husband works for Tesla. So he's following Elon Musk, I'm following him. I
That's
can do
great.
my job from anywhere in the
Uh,
world, literally. I can do my job
yeah.
because mine is research and writing. So I'm not bound to a place, unlike my husband's career.
That's great luxury to have, I guess. But what does your husband tell? I mean, how is it to work for Elon Musk?
It has its, pluses and minuses. It's definitely an intellectual challenge. So he's very much always pushed to his, intellectual capacities more and more. And
Yeah.
Elon is never satisfied with whatever you give him. It's like always the next big thing. But on the other hand, it also expects all the employees to work, give their 110%,
And
which means that there's always a little less energy for the family. So usually the other spouse, be it the husband or the wife, has to chip in. But sometimes these sacrifices are, every working family goes through this in different forms. And I'm sure when time comes to it, my husband is always ready to take the back seat and
sure.
take care of the child. So it's
You are engineer from background. So how this transition into food and the science behind the food? How
yeah.
did this happen?
So I graduated from Ohio State University with a master's degree in industrial engineering. So I'm even my bachelor's in engineering, and I got my master's in engineering. I graduated. I started working as an engineer. I would work for manufacturing plants. I would work as a consultant. For about a decade, I did that. That was my job. But then situations changed, and I started getting interest in food. I started changing my career trajectory. In the past decade, from 2010 to 2021, almost 11 years, I have been focused on food. I've been focused on researching the background of it. Like, why do we use ingredients in certain products? Why do we why do we have why do we the science behind, say, fermentation,
Mhm.
um, all aspects of food, right? So from the manufacturing point of view, just the manufacturer, to a consumer point of view, what decision points are we using to buy the products? And as a mom, and buying things for my children, and as cooking um, food for my children. So I like to think that I try to explore all the facets of it, of food in general.
That's great. I mean, in this day and age, I don't know what people uh, are giving us to eat. I mean, earlier it was so easy. I mean, you had your cows and you have your farms, you just take stuff and then cook. Now it's all manufactured for high scale and to reach the masses. And we are not really sure what they are giving us and what are they prioritizing. Are they prioritizing our health or are they prioritizing their profits? And in the that is the challenge I think everybody faces. So what really motivated you, I mean, this shift from being an engineer working for working in manufacturing and then getting in this field and taking on full time research sort of that you do.
So, a little bit about my personal background is that my both my parents are diabetic. My dad had diabetes, and he had kidney failure, and then he had a kidney transplant, and then that transplant failed, and then he went back into dialysis, and then he had end stage renal disease, and he passed away in 2011. Now, the problem I am very close to my dad, as every child is.
Yeah.
For me, the most heartbreaking thing was watching my dad be a man who is in control of his life, who loves food. He loves to laugh and joke. From that, he has the last 5, 6 years of his life became pretty much about hospitals, pretty much about being tied to machines. And he was a different person almost. And so I started wondering, like, where did we go wrong? Like, my mom cooks at home, she's a housewife, and we have been trying to do the right things. But what broke down? And of course, some things are not in our control. Some things are
Yeah.
genetic. Some things are environmental. I
Yeah.
understand. But what can we do to avoid within our control? How can we avoid going down that path? And that was also the time when there was a lot of emphasis between 2005 to 15. There was a lot of emphasis on food and nutrition.
Yeah.
So many books were written both in US and in India. There's a lot more India also. There's a lot more awareness to Ayurveda and things like that. And so I started digging deeper and deeper. And for me, like, it's never like I told you so or my grandma told me so I'm listening, right? Like, my personality is that I'll always ask why. Why are we doing this? And I need to know the answers. And sometimes the answer is not evident to you. And there is truth to
Yeah.
whatever your elders are saying, but sometimes the answer is not evident. So then I want to explore why. Because once you understand, it becomes a lot more easier in your mind to just follow it, because so if I do X, Y happens, right?
Yeah.
So that's I think that is what I'm trying to do with my blog, is that I'm trying to help people understand why is certain product made certain way, why are they giving these fillers, additives, stabilizers, and so on. And just to pull a point back, Shank, you said that we have so many choices now, they add
Yeah.
so many things, and I look at it as a glass half full, glass half empty. So yeah, you can be like, life was simpler back then, you can say that, and that's one way of looking at it, and it is correct. Life was a lot simpler back in the 80s, but now you have choice, and that's a glass half full, because now you're
Yeah.
able to take a packet, turn it around, look at the ingredient, and say, "No, yeah, I don't want this. Let me choose the next. There's one sitting right next to it on the shelf because it has a cleaner ingredient." It's a very
Yeah.
simple choice that you can make just by giving extra 30 seconds of your time to read the ingredient. So I feel like we have the ability to do that, and we should welcome the opportunity.
Yeah, and I guess that learning curves quickly kicks in. I mean, once you made sure that this is the right ingredients, and it's a one-time job. I mean, you have to make sure that this is the right food for me, and it's pretty easy. Next time you go, so that's great. I mean, that's right way to view it, half glass full. So, I mean, now you are based in US and you were brought up in India. So, what are the differences that you see? I mean, I have tasted Indian foods. You were brought up here, and now that you are in US, what is the difference between the food that you see in US? So you cook Indian food for your household, or
Of course.
is it what your kids prefer?
So it's a mix of both, right? Like every
Okay.
family nowadays, you can't just feed
Mhm.
them sambar, rasam, and tair, and
Yeah.
your kids
Yeah.
will be like, "Where is my pizza?" Right? So
Yeah.
you have to find a balance, but you can't let go of your past, your heritage, what has been given to you. And you asked about the difference between Indian and US
Yeah.
food cultures. I think India has so much to offer. I think a lot of it is just unexplored or not unmarketed, I would say, not
Yeah.
unexplored. We have explored it.
Yeah.
We just haven't talked about it enough. We should be talking about it a lot. I mean, the amount of grains, amount of legumes, amount of plant stuff that we have looked into, the processes we do to it, we ferment it, we sprout it, and so chutki mein we do it, yeah. Like
Yeah.
we don't even think. So I just give you an example, and it's a sidetrack. But when somebody posted my blog on hackernews.com,
Mm.
and I talked about sprouting, and majority of the comments were like, "Oh, this girl is from the Indian heritage." So she thinks sprouting is so easy. So sprouting में क्या है? Like, it's not such a rocket science.
Rocket
But
science.
if
Yeah,
you
exactly.
are not in that culture of like you see your mom and your dadi doing some things, you just
Yeah,
get used to it. You don't think so much about it. But if it's something
exactly.
very, very different out of your comfort zone, you always think there's a huge mental barrier to cross. So that is a
Yeah,
big advantage in Indian societies. Coming to the US, I think here, based on the land, geography, and things, there's not that much plant-based products or variety, right? That is, it's
yeah,
the past that's building up. But what they have an advantage here is the manufacturing capabilities and the scientific technologies, and they use it to their maximum advantage. And I'll give you a couple of examples. One is that canned foods or frozen foods, for example, many Indians look down upon it, right? They think, "Ye kya hai?
yeah.
What is this processing, right?"
This not fresh.
Canning, yeah, exactly. But canning, especially let's say something like chickpeas or rajma, I have been to those factories. Nobody touches it, right? Like the factory, they just the products go in, it gets soaked in boiling water, it comes out, the can comes out. It's like an automatic 24/7. Hygienic to the highest quality. It's packed, and canning has been used as a technology since 1920, World War One, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like a old one. And you can go through the ingredient list and cans and say, there's not even a firming agent like a calcium chloride or anything, right? Like it's just chickpeas, salt, water. That's it. Those are the ingredients.
Yeah.
And but we have this mental block. Yeah, I'll just put it in my cooker. But for a working woman who's like getting up
Yeah.
in the morning and doing a million things, I can open a chickpea can and I can make a quick, sundal, a channa masala, whatever. That technology is bought to me. Why am I saying no to it? Right? That's one. Frozen foods also. Another example. People look down upon frozen. Did you know that the plants that the frozen food plants or the manufacturing facilities are usually right next to the field. So in half an hour, whatever is chopped gets sent, gets washed, gets blanched, gets frozen, and gets shipped up. Now in India, we can get farmers market fresh. But let's say you go to a bazaar, like like what do you call, like a air conditioned, like a
Yeah.
multi-tier grocery chain.
Mall.
That
Yeah.
that tomato is coming to you like after 7 days or something like that, right?
Hmm.
It has to go through those checks and processes, and it has to come from
Sure.
the fields and so on. So you have actually lost quite a bit of vitamin C in the process, but it's just waiting for it, right, to come, and then you pick it. So why don't you look at something like frozen, where the only preservation technology used is chilling? You have really brought the temperature so down that no microbes can grow in it. So why don't you embrace it, right? And those are things that here they are very willing to push the envelope, and I like that part, but I also like the Indian part of me is always like, let's try, and we can try bajra, we can try all kinds of danas and legumes, and we can do all kinds of things at home with it. We can
Yeah.
ferment it and make idlis, which is so cool. Like it is so cool
Hmm.
that we can do this and chutki mein,
Hmm.
I think
Right.
those are the advantages in both sides.
So you really, I mean, brought out a very good points. You are saying that in some cases, if used the right technology and the preservation method, frozen is actually better than the fresh that we get in these malls and big bazaars and all that we have in India, right? So that's I'm sure kind of an eye opener for me as well, and I'm sure listeners will find it useful. Moving on, so you are aware of Indian foods, and I being a vegetarian, I have a tendency of taking in less protein. I think so. Is it really the case, or it's just a myth that we have? I mean, if you go work out and you are going to the gym regularly, and if you are a vegetarian, are you not getting enough protein from your Indian vegetarian diet?
My personal answer, again, I'm not a nutritionist. I just want to make it clear
Sure.
to the audience. My background is engineering. I look at numbers.
Yeah.
So I
But
don't
I think
I'm not
engineers
giving
think
nutrition.
better.
Yeah. I would not say that, because I think nutritionists, they have spent years studying something,
Yeah,
and
that's
so they
fine.
bring it.
And
Yeah.
but uh,
So I'll just, this
engineers
is just,
are data driven.
sure.
Because I'm an engineer, I have to say that. Sure, go ahead.
Of course, of course. So I think that there's no such thing. Like, I think you can be. There are very famous vegan triathlon, athletes. Like, they do swimming and
Yeah,
marathons and stuff, and you have very famous people who go on those diets and they are thriving. So in Indian cuisine, in fact, being a vegetarian or being a vegan is so easy, I would say, better than any other cuisine. Because what do the people in US do when they say they become a vegetarian or a vegan? They buy these soy meats and they buy these burgers. Like, they're trying to replicate something
okay.
that is already existing in meat form. So we don't do that. We say,
Yeah,
okay, we take this channa and we say, let's make our channa masala out of it. Let's make
yeah,
our rajma out of it. Let's make our tikkis out of it. Like, we do our processing, which has been there for many years. We're not trying to replicate this. So what happens is, in our Indian cuisine, we understand the properties of each dals and each legumes much better. For example, urad dal is one of the very few dals which has, other than soybean, which has the natural ability to ferment. So you soak urad dal, you'll see that bubbles on top, right? The
yeah.
microorganisms are already there. So we can make vadas out of it, which is high in protein. We can make idlis and stuff like that. It is a very unique property, right? We understand that. So if you understand the dals and the properties, yes, there will be this counter argument that dal is still, a lot of it is carbohydrate, right? 20% or maximum 30% is only protein. Rest of it is carbohydrate. You're eating it with the rice or chapati, which is again 10 to
Carbs.
20% protein, and the rest is carbs. So how can you say that we can do well in a protein diet? If you really want to go high protein, go with paneer, go with soya, tofu, things like that. Those you stretch it even further. You make the percentage go higher. It's not going to go as high as meat, which is at 80%, right? But if, let's say, if you're saying specifically for working out for a body, you can build a diet with a nutritionist where you're going to eat very high protein plant-based substance. And I think in the long term, maybe not in the short term, but long term, I
Yeah.
think your body will thank you for it. I think having the ability to easily digest your protein and to do its job and have no side effects is my opinion. I feel that long term your body will thank you for it. But whether if you want to build muscles like within 6 months and you think that it is not possible, it's a call you have to make. But I
Yeah.
think that with your moong dal, with your dals, and especially I think that dals also offer a different way. In South India, there is an actual dish called parpusuli where you steam dals and you make an excellent sabzi out of it. It's a sabzi out of just dal, right? You would think, how can you do that? Doesn't it get watery? It's not. They soak it and they steam it, and you get this very fluffy. So you can make dishes like that. You can use sprouts. You can make a salad out of sprouts. So there are ways where you avoid carbs completely, and you can do that. You have to just plan a little bit better.
Yeah, so I mean, that's really good advice. I mean, short term is never a good idea to go with. I mean, you can bulk up eating all the chicken and the meat that you want, but it is not sustainable. I mean, how can you go about eating every day certain amount of meat? I don't think it is sustainable over a long period of time. You have to respect your body also. I mean, what it can digest, and can be you can sustain it and as well as enjoy it. I mean, paneer in that way is my favorite dish. You can put it literally in anything and it tastes better. Then you have the dals and sprouts, soya. I think
Yeah.
that these are really good alternatives. Coming back to, I mean, the thing that we are talking about, like we have to see all these ingredients. I mean, we have so many choices. Is it fair to assume that if, let's say, it's a popular brand, it will have good ingredients? Or is it you have to do your homework beforehand.
So I think you brought up a very good myth, Shashank, that if it has a name stamp of a brand name, like a good brand name, it is automatically a good choice. So food industry is a very low margin industry. Okay, you cannot make
Yeah.
like you cannot become the next Mark Zuckerberg by becoming selling biscuits and chips. Okay,
Yeah.
so you have to understand that. So then where do they make the money? So right, so they have to make the money by either providing you a slightly pricier product or a slightly different version of it, like bringing them brand new flavors and things like that. The other way they can do that is to reduce the cost of the ingredients by getting cheaper products in and take that money and put it in marketing. I'm not saying it happens all the time, but sometimes the big brands, rather they look at food like they're selling clothes, right? They would rather,
Yeah.
they'll say, okay, so let me see ingredient A, B, C. This is the cost of my oil. If I have to use like sesame oil or, coconut oil, which are really good oils and expensive ones, that means maybe get cottonseed oil, which is a byproduct of some other industry. So it's giving me cheaper. So then let me just give it. I'll get like a 30, I don't know, 30 rupees savings or whatever per
Mm.
packet.
Yeah.
If you look at it as a math, then you're going to shortchange your customer, right? But if you look at it like sometimes there are a lot of food companies which are started by entrepreneurs who really want to do the right thing, right? I even nowadays every like even with my blog, a lot of entrepreneurs approach me and say, I have this product, I'm trying to make it clean. So there's a
Mm.
thirst is there. We as consumers have to give them the opportunity to do that, right? Because if you are going to say I'm only going to go with this brand because I see that person on TV, that cricketer,
Yeah.
that star, I think that you're doing a disservice to somebody who's genuinely interested in feeding you a good thing. So I'm not saying that all some see the big brands have one advantage to them. One is that they'll have lots of food scientists like me. They will employ industrial engineers to make
Mm.
sure that this food never gets spoiled, that there is no contaminant, like there is a lower contamination. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but
Yeah.
they have quality control. They have consistency. They have made the process, nailed the process down. So they have those advantages. But the disadvantage is that they can be removed from the passion of it. So you as a consumer have the choice to say, so should I go with a name brand one or should I go with this up and coming person? Read the ingredients. Read the ingredients, use the price. What is my budget? What is the best money? What's the best product I can get for that budget? Then you make the choice.
So you're saying that big brands may cut corners in getting the cost down, but they are hygienic. Like their process is hygienic. They ensure lower contamination, but they might cut corners to reduce the cost, right?
It's the general, everything has a caveat.
Yeah.
So that's the
Yeah.
general way it works. You have a big brand. When you have a big brand, you will have quality engineers looking at the whatever. Like say they're making milk, they will be testing every batch of milk that comes in, right? Before it gets into your big can where they pasteurize it and stuff. They are
Mm.
going to make sure that nothing is going to contaminate the other batches. So they would have these systems in place that would quality check them. And they will also, and then a lot of people ask me, what if they're printing wrong things on the label? Right? Like a lot of people tell me, like, I don't believe that. So if you are a big brand and you're doing that, and you have engineers who work for you who know that, I don't think it's going to be a matter of secret, right? At least
Yeah.
it is not possible. And then FSSAI is doing their checks and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So there is a little bit of a systematic process in place to handle um, the difference in ingredients, whatever is
Mm.
coming, right? So that they
Mm.
have nailed down. The process they have nailed it down.
Mm.
Whether they make the choice to sell it to you cheap or not by cutting costs, that is a call that each CEO or each executive branch of that company makes. And you have to um, be the person who checks, stops that, like by reading the ingredient.
That is where I think your blog is a lifesaver for many, because you are doing all the hard work and literally putting out information for free. And we need more people like you who create sort of awareness at least. I mean, people should know what they are eating and how can they make informed choice, I guess, right? Coming on to, ma'am, as we were talking popular myths, uh, is olive oil the really the choice? It is so much trending in India. I mean, from past couple of years, everybody is like olive oil is the oil to go with, and I don't really feel that it goes with the Indian food that we have. Please shed some light on that.
Sure, sure. So every few years, something has to trend, right? That's how you
Yeah,
can get the consumer excited about trying
yeah,
new things. Now it is olive oil. Next, in 5 years, it'll be some other oil, right?
yeah,
So what do you want to look for when you buy an oil? And this is a question I get asked a lot. Um, the health aspect, I will leave it to you and your nutritionist and your doctor. But from
sure.
a manufacturing point of view, you have how is oil made? Either you can make it by mechanically pressing it, expeller pressing
Yeah,
it, mechanically pressing it, which is our olden way, like chucky and stuff like that.
yeah,
So what happens in that is that you are basically staying as close to the original source as possible. You're getting all the nutritions from it, and it's coming in. It's accumulating. But that will usually be cloudy. It will have the particulates in it. So you can even filter the particulate to a very small level, and you can be sold as cold pressed oil. And the reason
okay,
olive oil is trending is because it's one of those oils, just like coconut and sesame, which can be cold pressed. So you use fresh the olives, you dry it, you squeeze it, you get the oil,
mm,
just like coconut or sesame or peanuts, even, right? So there is a problem with it. Doesn't mean all cold pressed oils are good. It depends on how long that's been sitting in the shelf. So if you're buying it from a producer who is like either has a high turnover where you have a
yeah,
lot of people coming and buying it, it's
mm.
fine. Oil is one of those things you should not pride yourself saying, "Ye oil मैंने 2 years पहले खरीदा था." That is not.
Not
It is
like
like
wine.
opposite of wine or vinegar, right? Vinegar, the more
Okay,
you age,
yeah,
the better it is. In the oils, it is the more you age, it's the worst for you. So you don't want to do that. So now, how do companies who are trying to sell you oil with a large shelf life, how do they take care of this problem? They process it. And that is the refining process. And the process is very extensive use of chemicals. Now, whether it is bad for you or not is a question that you have to answer for yourself. But personally, I would choose a extracted oil from a source that I can get quickly than an oil that has been through the high temperatures and all the refining processes that involve in making that cloudy oil into a clear, like golden, like it looks just golden, right? How is it possible? It is not naturally available that way.
yeah.
So it has been made that way. You have bleaching, you have deodorizing, you have dewaxing, you have degumming. You have to go through so many processes, and then you have to use something called hexane solvent, which will remove extract any bit of oil that's last left in that thing, because they want to just squeeze the maximum out of it. And then when you take it back, they notice that not all the hexane comes back. Some of the solvents go back, still are remaining in the oil. So those are all choices that you have. Now, if you want to make, let's say your budget is stretched and you want to make Diwali things, you might get a refined oil in a large quantity. And that is, I would say it's your choice. You have made that choice.
Yeah.
But for everyday cooking, may you want to try and get your oils from a source that goes through oils quickly. And if possible, try to get expeller pressed or cold pressed oils. Those are very good.
So the cold pressed oils are way to go for daily cooking, I think.
I would think so, unless you're exposing it to super high temperatures of frying and things like that. Then what
Yeah.
happens is that those particulates that I told you that they cannot take it out will burn inside the oil. And then you're eating oxidized stuff. But if you're doing normal sautés and things like that, it
Yeah.
doesn't go super high temperature. You're totally fine, especially if you're eating salads and things like that. You definitely want to use, and don't use olive oil for salads just because people are telling you to do so. Use your coconut oil for salad. Use your sesame oil. So this is all like all in our minds, right? We whatever the avial Kerala dish, they add fresh coconut oil at the end. What khushbu, that is
Yeah.
irreplaceable. So you have to recognize. So you use olive oil for salads that don't want that very specific coconut flavor. Use it. There's nothing wrong. Every oil has its pluses and minuses. Just recognize it.
And especially, I mean, now that there's a demand for olive oil, uh, I feel that there's much more chance of adulteration in that because it's expensive, and if you give it to the people cheap, a little bit cheaper, and that cheapness has to come at a cost, right? So people really need to, I mean,
I
see
think
what
if
they are getting. Yeah,
Uh, you make a fair point. I think the problem is that the key, like, if you're curious about it, olives are not probably grown in India. It's a Mediterranean plant.
yeah,
Depends on where the product is coming from. If you have coconuts grown all over Kerala, then your oil is going to be a lot cheaper. But if you're going to
yeah.
export olives from, say, some country in the Middle East, you're going to have a higher cost. You are curious about it, use it once or twice. You don't have to go around like stretching your budget, trying to, use it every day because it's so
Yeah.
fabulous or anything. There's no such thing.
and and let me tell you, nobody is in India is really eating salads with and then too with olive oil. We like our chola bhatura and masala dosa and all that stuff. And
Sure.
for that, what oil do you recommend? I mean, if you have to do some frying or daily cooking like your normal
Yeah.
dals and sabjis, what is your recommendation?
So for everyday cooking, you can use your mustard oils and your sesame oils, whatever is the local, it's been in the history of your cuisine. That should be
Sure.
fine, and just stay away from, if possible, from corn oil and vegetable oils because they're highly refined. And if you think about it, the extraction of oil from a corn is going to be highly processed. You can't just do it naturally. Like
Yeah.
if you leave coconut out in the sun, you're going to see the oils ooze out. If you leave sesame out and grind it, you will start getting the oil. What's happening in the vegetable oil? There's a lot of processing happening. So if you think just instinctively, you feel like that doesn't make sense to me, avoid it.
So basically, anything refined is a no way to go about, and that is true for oil, and also I feel that is true for flour and other things.
Uh, Preferably, because most of
Yeah,
the time, why do they refine it? They refine it to extend the shelf life, right? They want to make sure it doesn't spoil by the time it reaches your hands. And sometimes things are sitting in the shelves for 1 year almost before it comes into your hands. So that is the perspective of the food manufacturer. Now, whether you buy it and you want to use it for your health reasons, it is a choice you have to make. And let's say you have decided that my health is important. I am going to only use cold pressed oils, and you're going to only use whole grain atta. What is going to happen is that you're going to make that decision with your wallet and with your money, and you're going to say, hey, make the supply systems better because I want cold pressed oil. I am willing to pay you for it. Make them supply it every 2 3 months instead of every 6 months or whatever, right? Keep changing, make that supply chain shorter where from the producer it's coming to my hands very quickly. Then we can force them to, but with increasing demand we can force
yeah.
that to happen rather than them figuring out how can I extend the shelf life of a product, how can I make it sit for 6 months to 1 year without the shopkeeper sending it back to me. So we can decide how the technology should move forward, how the product should move forward. It's in our hands.
So ultimately, if we have good demand, the supply will eventually follow, and they will figure out all
Definitely.
the supply chain issues. And it's
Definitely.
because of that we have to create this awareness so that more people ask for healthy stuff, and then Ultimately, the producers and the manufacturers notice and invest in good supply chains, and let us make healthy choices with not giving us a huge pain in our pocket. That's
Correct.
great. And as we talk about oil, and other most consumed product is bread. And please settle this debate for us: white bread or brown bread?
I would say neither. I would go say try to get sourdough bread. And you're going to laugh
Okay.
at me. I know that people have this chip on their shoulders on sourdough, but there is a reason behind it. If you want, I can go into it.
Sure, sure, please.
Okay.
I mean, I
So
have watched a documentary on sourdough bread, how people are so obsessed with it. They carry that starter, you call, right? The starter from ages. I mean, they have been doing from ages, and the history is so prolific. I mean, people have been doing from Egyptian mummies and all those times. Please share your views.
yeah, exactly. And I think the problem happens when people get too obsessed with the topic, they scare away everybody else. They're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with all this. So the sourdough has these microbes that are already working in for you. So they are like little
Yeah,
tiny chefs. They are inside working, they're digesting these wheat grains and stuff and making it more accessible to you. Just like how you do in idli, na? You're eating
yeah,
idli
yeah,
and those digestion is happening for you, pre-digestions. You even if you're sick, right? Like you come out, what do you eat? You can, the doctor will tell you, you can eat idli, right? Why? Because
yeah,
that has been, those microbes have been working on it and have been breaking those carbs into simpler forms. The same thing happens with sourdough also. So I think if you use that technique rather than the shortcut, the only problem with sourdough is that you need time, and if the manufacturer is ready to give the time to make it, then you will have a bread that is longer lasting, better for your health than these quick baking soda made breads that they are making quickly in the factory and slicing it and giving it to you. Now it's not, sourdough is a taste just like idli, it will develop, you have to develop it.
okay,
So if you're not used to it, children may not have it. So my children will not have sourdough. So
okay.
then what do, you go for the next bit, which is brown. You go try and use brown bread because you have the hull and the all the nutrition. Most, if you take a grain of atta or rice, most of the nutrition is on the outer layer. Once you go start going inside, it's mainly starch that is happening. So you want to try and retain all the nutrition, but along with it, there are also fats and oils which will degrade over time. So if you're buying brown bread, which is really has been sitting in the shelf for long, you're eating oxidized. So then what would, that's a choice you have to make then. Would I rather eat a bread that has been sitting on the shelf, white bread or not? But that is the thought process you have to apply. You want more nutrition, of course, do brown bread, but try to get as fresh as possible. If you have a baker in town, try to get it from him. But rather than going to the supermarket and buying these packaged breads, try and get freshly.
Sourdough episode sounds like more like, I mean, I remember in my childhood, we used to make our own dahi yogurt, and
Yeah.
for that we have that starter that's called jawan, and I think padosi neighbors used to share that कि जाके मतलब as a child I would go कि जाके अपना वो लेके जब थोड़ा सा जावन ले आओ, I have to make my own
Yes.
dahi. And are you making your own sourdough breads, or you are buying there? Is it available?
I buy it. I let the
Okay.
bakers handle that, like taking care of it like a baby.
Yeah.
It's a see, somebody has given their time and effort to grow a culture for you.
Yeah.
So you can mock them and laugh at them, but also you have to think that somebody is there out there doing that work for you. Why not appreciate it? Right?
Sure.
So it's a, it's a point of view. Right? You can either you can easily be like, what is this? Or you can say that has, they're doing this ages of work and keeping it just like your neighbor has kept your dahi for you and
Yeah.
propagating. Somebody has done
Right. So we should respect them
that.
and give them due respect, and eat as much as we can. Coming on to another popular trend that we have is sugar free or sugar. I mean, the alternatives for sugar. You have uh, in India, we have this popular brand. sugar free, and I don't literally know what is in that. I mean, I don't know the scientific name. Everybody just goes and buys sugar free. And then we have stevia and other stuff. What is your take on that?
So sugar free, it depends on what is giving you that sweetness, which is the ingredient that is giving you the sweetness instead of giving you that glucose rush, right, or the carbohydrate rush in your body. So usually it will be stevia is based off a plant leaf. There is there is xylitol, there is that is based out of fermented bacteria, I believe. It's a byproduct. And there's erythritol, and there are different things, right? So how do you make a choice as if you want to buy something sugar free, if you want to use it for your cup of chai or whatever, I would recommend stevia because it's coming from a plant, and the Japanese have been using it for quite a bit. Now the stevia has a little bit of an aftertaste to it. So there's a bitter taste, which is usually happens in most of these sweeteners because you can't get that sweet hit without anything in back in return. So usually you'll have some negative thing. And so they use something called the Reb A, which is the highest form of stevia, and you pay a little bit more for it. So that is just the top leaf parts or something like that, which doesn't have that bitterness quite as much. So you can do that. You can also buy xylitol. Like a lot of people in US do that. Xylitol is also a part of the toothpaste. It's actually used to keep your gums healthy. But it can cause gut problems. You can get stomach trouble when you eat it. So you have to decide based on what your body is reacting. How is it responding? So you have to make that call. Maybe you can give up sugar totally and avoid these. That is the best, but it is maybe not practical. So then you try out a couple of other products, stevia, be it erythritol, xylitol. Don't go based on cost because it's cheaper or because it's costlier. See how your body is reacting. And if you're diabetic, you have to check your response to everything. If your body is not agreeing to it, then why do you subject your body to it? Okay. So that is also very important that you realize what your body is trying to tell you. And coming to just an extension of that, if you go for sugar-free products, I would say stay away from it. Stay away 100% from it. And I don't say that blatantly for most of the things because most of the things has pros and cons. See, sugar is not just an ingredient. It serves many purposes. Sugar is a preservative. Sugar is colorless or odorless. It can absorb water and keep it so that if you add a bunch of sugar to something, it's like adding a bunch of salt to something, it will preserve it. Like honey may mummies, they used to keep it. So just like that, you add a bunch of sugar, it will preserve it for you. Now, if you're going to say, take a jam with sugar free in it, so where are they going to get that bulk from? And how are they going to preserve it? Right? Because the sugar is not just there to sweeten the product, it is also to extend the shelf life of the product. So now you have to make up all those properties with something else. So you put stevia for sweetening. You put, like, say, some additives or stabilizers for filling it up. You still put preservatives because now you haven't had, you can't save it. So why do you want to do all that? Just stay away from jams, right? Or you take very little bit portion control. You would go to or say sugar-free biscuits, right? Again, they will have a lot more stuff going into their ingredient list than a normal biscuit. So you are forcing the manufacturer, telling them, I want sugar-free stuff, but I want it clean. So ye nahi ho sakta, right? Scientifically, you cannot. You have constraints. So you have to understand that something is either preserved with sugar or preserved with salt, like say in pickles. You can't go and ask salt-free pickle. Can you do that? No. Right? Like, how would you preserve it? So it doesn't make sense. So you have to better to avoid, I would say, because the current scientific technology does not allow you to create that environment where microbes can't grow, but so you have to add other things which your body will not like. So you have to either wait for technology to get there or you just give up the product or something.
So that means really, I mean, jitna you stray away from the natural form of things and you go more into adding different sort of stuff to make up for the natural form of things, it is not the way to go. I mean, it doesn't really help, and it does not achieve that purpose you initially thought it achieves. You spoke
Correct.
about jams and pickles. I have to mention all those pearls of wisdom that you have on your Twitter handle. What is your Twitter handle? Can you just
Upgrade my food. Upgrade.
so
Just look for upgrade my food and look for Swetha Sivakumar and you'll be able to find it.
so there are a lot of these short and crisp threads on pickles, jams, biscuits, even, and then
Yes.
you have ice creams. You have
Ice
covered ice creams
creams. Yes.
also. So
Yes.
that is a lot of hard work compressed into a short tweet thread, and people can check that out. And we have talked about a lot about food, and I personally recall you mentioned canned food, and it's not really, I mean, the choice for Indian household. But when I was in the army, we used to get this tinned and that form of food because we didn't have that choice. So,
Sure. Yeah.
but yeah, but uh, the cook that we had, he was so expert in, I mean, making all those foods, even with the canned products. I mean, we never really felt because he had the certain process. I mean, he'll take out the canned food, he will wash it very I mean, he will remove
Thoroughly.
everything from the additives and etc from it, and then he'll make it so delicious. I mean, we used to enjoy at I mean, there's nothing much to do, and just I mean, these are the small pleasures that we have. So apart from the food choices that we have, there's a cooking process that we have to take into account. So I just want to talk about that, and you cover it in your blog many times. So these days we have a trend again for air fried products, and then there is something, if we go the steamed and others cooking styles. So what is your choice of sort of cooking, or does it depend on the kind of dish that you are making?
Yeah. So initially, when I started my recipe, trying out different, I would just bake everything, steam everything. So ऐसा नहीं बनता, right? Like people won't like it. So
टेस्ट
you
नहीं
have
आएगा
to,
बिल्कुल.
and you
Yeah,
know, it's no point if you make a big batch and people have taken
yeah.
2 handfuls just for being polite and saying thank you.
Yeah,
So you have to. I think so. My motivation is that, like for example, in our families, in especially in South Indian families, vada is a big deal, right? Like my
sure.
daughter can eat 7 to 9 vadas, literally. Like she loves vada. Just like the day you make it, she will be
Hmm.
happy. Just that is her food, breakfast, morning,
Hmm.
night.
Hmm.
So I was very stumped. Like, how do I make a good air fried vada? Or how do I make a good baked vada? So I tried like the traditional method, just sticking it in the oven, like flat, dry. My mother saw this and she was like, enough with your nonsense. Go away. I'll just try it for my granddaughter. You are doing too much. So then I thought, what is it? Like it needs a rising agent. Like the oil, the moment it hits, the fat is giving you an instant heat source and then it's nicely crisping the outside and things like that, right? So how do I replicate that? So I went step by step and I started whipping the batter so that it has that rise. And then I started broiling the top so that it would be nice and toasty. And then finally, like, I don't know, 6 months later, I have a recipe which I put it in my blog. And then I got a thumbs up from my daughter. My mom also says so it's fine. Which is great compliment from her. And I can make it a snack. So is it going to be just like a fried vada? Of course not. It will get 80-90% there. So we can, if you're going to make it because your kid really loves a certain dish, you want to replicate it, you can do it. You can make healthier versions of it. You can steam, the for the parpusti, like I told you, instead of making, if you want, you're craving some protein-rich dish, you can use your steaming as a method to make that nice lentil crumbles. You can make, you can air fry potatoes. It will be just like potato fries. You just had a little 2-3 teaspoons of oil and toast it. You have some techniques behind it. So, for example, with the potato, I just want to explain. Like, I put the entire potato in my air fryer whole for about 20 minutes, and then I take it out, and then I cut it into strips, coat it with oil, and then I put it again. So the time is a long, because if I had to just cut it and put it on the oil is
Yeah.
such a great heat conducting medium that I get it done quick. So, so if you want to shortchange that and say, I want to make it healthier, you have to give up something. So that will be your
Something.
time. So your
Sure.
time, you just figure it out. And it's a lot of it is inactive time anyway. You just, as long as you cut it and stick it in the thing, you just have to plan ahead. Then you have it. Like, it's the same, within 1 hour, it will
Sure.
be ready. You're not sitting there, sitting and stirring it. So
Mhm.
you just have to plan ahead. So that's it.
Yes. Again, I mean, it's a learning curve. Once you start, I mean, if you embrace the process, then it feels much easier. And there, your people like you come in, who gives out all these recipes and all. So basically, ma'am, you are saying that it depends on the dish as well as the amount of time you put in, and you can achieve almost similar results in terms of taste, following few techniques. That's correct.
Yeah, you can, definitely. And I think the interest is there to be patient with your results. You can definitely. And I think I also want to mention, Shashank, that a lot of
Yeah.
young men, I'm very surprised, but a lot of young men are very interested in experimenting, and they keep asking me for tips. So this is a new thing, because
Yeah.
they are not bound by, so my mom used to do it this way or something. Maybe they never entered the kitchen when they're young or whatever. They're willing to kind of push the boundaries a little bit. So I think that I'm very happy to see this, and I'm sure a lot of moms also want to do this, because even, a lot of situations, like for example in the pandemic, people are sitting in the house, kids, you're not allowing them to play, so you want to make them something healthy, you want to make the effort. So I think a lot of our Indian dishes are very capable of getting the healthier version. Like, say, you can make baked or air fried vadas, baked or air fried potato chips. You can make sweets, laddus with dates. I have those recipes also. Instead of adding sugar to it, you can add dates, and you can make extremely good laddus. You can make extremely good cauliflower rice. So you can make, lemon rice, coconut rice. There are so many very thick. This Indian cuisine is so rich that you can say, I can take those principles and I can convert them into a healthier. It gives you that leeway. It gives you the room. You just have to be willing to push the boundaries a little bit. And what happens when you push the boundaries? Sometimes you'll fail, and that's okay. And I have had many things which have flopped, but it's not like, so I will give up. No, you just keep trying. And I think the fact that if anybody is on a health journey, be it in the exercise, in your physical fitness, or be it they want to eat healthy, they're usually willing to do that. They're willing to fail. They're willing to try things. So recipe, cooking, everybody, nobody becomes an expert overnight.
Yeah.
Most of your best cooks, who would you say? Your dadi, or your,
Yeah.
very old person who has
Mm.
had 40 years of experience in the kitchen. Very few people, you'll say, at the age of 20 they have that hand that, cooks. That's
Mhm.
very few percentage. Most
Right.
of them have had it over their lifetime. They have learned the tips. So you also do it every day. You get a chance in the kitchen to improve your cooking 1%. Every day you have that chance. No other thing you do in your life every single day. You cook every day. So you, even if you start off as a terrible cook, you didn't learn when you were young, doesn't matter. You have the rest of your life to improve. So that's not.
That's great. I mean, you brought out a great point that many young males are getting into trying their hand out in. I heard a comedian. I mean, he had a very funny take on this. I mean, earlier, the job of cooking and kitchen was with the ladies, and then we had a shift. Ladies went out. They got educated. They, I mean, went working. There are working women. नाउ पीपल स्टार्टेड कि भाई अब लड़कियां भी नहीं बनाएंगी. और लड़के भी नहीं पाएंगे तो खाना कौन बनाएगा? फिर डेली तो ऑर्डर नहीं कर सकते जोमेटो से. So I think now the shift is coming back, and the equality again that we talk about is coming, and especially in lockdown, people
Yes,
are getting more interested into making their own food and making healthy choices, because the pandemic has really brought everyone to the knees,
sure.
and they have realized the importance of being healthy, eating healthy. And as you mentioned, we do cooking every day. You have to cook
Yeah,
every day, so
right,
every day you are making that choice to eat
right,
healthy or not.
exactly.
Coming on to, ma'am, the most controversial question going around: are you a vegan, or are you a vegan Nazi, or are you trying to be vegan?
So, Shashank, I am trying to be vegan. That's all. I am not trying to change anybody's lifestyle from my. Uh, I'm not trying to be a vegan Nazi or any such thing. So, my philosophy is very simple. I just want to, as I get older, I just want to go towards plant based foods, just easier for my body to digest. That's my personal thing. So, that's number one with my health goals. Number two, I just think that so planet के लिए ये this is just a very good thing to do. In one of the ways you can reduce the greenhouse gases is by reducing your consumption or dependence on animal products. So that is one thing. And then I actually had an event that happened to me, and I just want to explain. So why my philosophy changed towards more focus towards veganism is that we were on a road trip in US, and we were going, so we stopped in a night time to take a restroom break. We saw this, it's called a tractor trailer. It is like a
Yeah,
huge truck, it has two
yeah,
layers. So it's filled with cows. They're taking them somewhere. So filled, jam packed. So we walked around it and we were seeing these cows with very pained expressions. Maybe I'm projecting, I don't know. But they were all trying to push each other. It's a lot of poop on the floor. They were just like, what has happened, right?
yeah,
So that image of seeing these cows just moving and being very helpless, for me, it struck a chord, right? So we are far removed nowadays from where the milk production happens, from where the cows are getting fed. Are they being grazed? So Krishna ke time mein, you have this, he took them to graze, and that's just
yeah,
a beautiful vision in our mind.
yeah,
Factory farming mein aise nahi hota, so they
yeah,
are very different and we don't see it, so we don't think about it. So
yeah,
I feel, so my it's when I saw that, I'm like, well, what more calling do I need? And it is not like it's even so hard, at least for me. Here you get oat milk, you have soy milk, you have just the whole range of milks that are available to you. You have vegan cheeses coming up. Not that I eat anyway that much cheese in
mm,
the first place. I do feed my children, still are not vegans or anything like that.
yeah,
But I feel as a consumer, you have those choices made to you. Those technology is advancing, and plant-based foods are just cropping up everywhere. Why not take advantage of it? That is my philosophy. It doesn't mean I go around telling anybody, you change your philosophy, right? I don't know. Even in my Twitter, people get so worked up. Like, so why are you? I am not pushing you to change. So you let me be. I am letting you be, right?
yeah,
So that is all.
sure.
That is all.
But somehow I feel, I mean, I agree. I'm a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. So don't you think, I mean, we should urge the regulatory bodies for more humane treatment of animals? Because if I'm not in favor of eating meat. I myself don't eat meat. So that is all the way bad, because you are killing someone and then eating it. So that's bad. But the products like milk products that we have, if we urge the regulators to get them to give the animals humane treatment, that is the problem that most people have. Because if we stop eating altogether all the milk products, then what will happen? I mean, then there will be no cows ultimately.
I
Isn't that
don't,
the
I
case?
think that see it's not like that. Like, see, when earlier they used to breed a lot of horses for
Yeah,
warfare.
Yeah.
Correct? They would just fight, and then there are so many histories, stories of how the horses would be in terrible shape after the war. Like nobody would
Yeah.
care for them. So yes, sir, it happens. And then even in US, they killed a lot of the native the bison population, which was overrun. Like, I mean, like they were a thriving population. To a point, they brought it down to like almost 800 or some really low numbers, to the point that the government had to step in and stop the ban hunting of those and let them actually grow up. So I am not saying ki yes, your idea is 100% correct. Let's definitely try to get more humane treatment. My philosophy is that you let them be, let the animals be, let them do their life, let them live their life. We impregnate them, we milk them,
Yeah.
we decide when we want to let them out to graze, maybe not. We feed them. I've heard stories of them being fed nonsense, like the byproducts of whatever industry can feed you. I am not there to see that. I don't have a power. The only power I have is I can choose whether to buy or not. And I am doing it only for myself. Even my family, my children, they like it. I don't want to impose it. But that is the philosophy I'm coming from. Let everybody be. This earth now is shared by people and organisms, and we humans overtake most of it anyway. We just manmani karte rehte hain, So we can do whatever we can if we can live our life without harming anybody. It's my philosophy. You live your life. Like I'm not even judging, like, because I have
Yeah.
lived majority of my life as a vegetarian. So what happened?
Yeah.
Like I go back and say what is it? and
Mm.
and I have not wanted meat because I've not grown up eating meat. If I had grown up eating
Sure.
meat, I'm sure I'd be like, it would be a pain for
Yeah.
me to do it. So I understand everybody's point of view, and if there is a time where you want to make that call, you will do it.
Mm.
Everybody wants to live life to the fullest, to the best. I'm sure they'll do it. But if they don't want to, it's up. Also, it's fine. It's fine. Their
Yeah.
calling will be something else. They might find the latest clean technology or whatever, and you are giving
True.
out your mission. Whatever, right? Like I don't have a say in any of this.
That's that's correct, ma'am. I mean, we have talked about a lot of healthy choices to make, and sacrificing some of your taste buds to make healthy choices. But sometimes when I'm in my workout momentum, I'm on a good diet, I get these dreams. I mean, literally dreams of I'm eating gulab jamun. And I mean, do you also get them sometimes? I mean, you now that you are so much into health stuff, what is your guilt food that you have?
I My biggest guilt food has always been ice creams. So now, so even more, I have to look for vegan ice cream, right? So I don't look at it. I mean, I think that knowledge is empowering. In fact, I feel the more I read, the more I can see a 360 view of things, and I can make an informed decision. And so I feel like when I was like 10 years earlier, when I had less knowledge, at least my personal thing, I would be very confused. Like, should I do this? Should I do that? I will try to be not. I've written a whole blog post about how I've done the fat-free diet, and I've done like low carb, and I
Keto.
would, yeah, no, keto I've not done. It's not. I had know many of my family members who have done it, and I think it is a excellent diet for whoever wants to adopt it. It's not for me.
Mm.
So I have done that in the past 10 years, and I've used to have that craving. So now I don't follow any diets. I feel like I have come to a place where I'm saying regulating my food. If I like something, I eat it. So I don't go crave it because I'm not restricting myself saying this is not right. But one a tool I do use to help me stay on track, which of late I have forgotten a little bit, but is fasting. I feel like fasting is such an excellent tool to, if you even have those urges and you kind of go over, then that will bring you down automatically. So you can live your life to, you're not craving or whatever. So you just have to cut down food for a little bit, and a lot of side benefits. So many, even Indian philosophy says the same thing. Western
Yeah.
philosophy, fasting has so many benefits. And I started really past few years, I've started trying that on and off. And I feel like it is such a valuable tool to help you regulate, because when you do that over binging, especially come August to December, our
Yeah.
all our festivals come around that time.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So we want to definitely have some good time, but then we can always dial it back a little bit with tools like that. So I don't have those,
Mm,
but I mean, I still go through my oscillations like
mm,
an every normal person, but I feel a little bit more. I don't get freaked out like, oh my god, my weight is
yeah.
increasing by 2 kilos or whatever. What will I do? What will I do? I know that I can employ some tools to bring it back. I know that.
That's correct, ma'am. I mean, what I see is all these diets, whether it's keto or any other diet, the basic principle is uh, having food in moderation and fasting in between, which was essential, especially in our Indian culture. That was the norm. But somehow we lost track, and now we are getting back with fancy
100
words and fancy diets. But essentially, the essence is the same, right?
correct. 100%. You're very correct.
Now, I have to ask you, since you are here, I mean, what is the recommendation that you have for keeping the kids interested in making healthy choices? I'm sure a lot of young parents that are listening want to know that. What's your take on that?
So it is an excellent question, Shashank. I feel that as a mom, I have done many mistakes in the past, and I have learned from my own mistakes. And for me, I feel like being a mom, usually you will have problems in two areas, right? One is especially with the pandemic, being closed out. Your child is there looking for some snacks they want to eat, and we have now plethora. We open your cupboard, you have biscuits galore, right? Chocolates, everything you have
Yeah.
stock. So you are worried. Your child is, you're trying to take it away from them. You're trying saying, don't do it, and they are trying to sneak or do that very
Mhm.
child thing, right? That is one
True.
area here. The other extreme is that your child doesn't want to eat anything, and you are saying ki kuch to kha jao, and you are saying
Mhm.
so I will feed you whatever you want. Like the child is like has having low energy, doesn't want to go out and play, doesn't want to eat anything. So extremes, right? Both extremes. So
Yeah.
I have seen with both my children and my close network of moms who are in the same age, same children age category. The best approach that you can take is to educate your child, right? And it is a long term process, right? You want to educate them over 10 years to read ingredients, to tell them, so yeah, this is good for your health. If you overate, it's okay, beta, like for this today, but then you should understand that this will make you feel a little, your tummy might ache a little. Try to
Mhm.
understand, observe your body. You have to give them the tools, and you have to be patient. They will make mistakes, they will binge eat sometimes, they will not eat the healthy foods that you're giving them. Sometimes they will just walk away from the dinner table. It is okay, be patient and keep enforcing, because most of the times the children who make wise choices, they have their parents either discuss within themselves or in the kitchen table about what is healthy, what is not, why do we have to eat certain things, not in a forceful way, but just giving
Yeah.
them the information, empowering them. And then eventually you will see the turn happen when they're 12, 13, 14, where they reach for the right choices and they say that, nay, today I don't, I think I ate too
Mm.
much and I don't give it. I think that a lot of moms worry more about their children's health than their own health. They neglect their own health at the expense
True.
that their child should do live properly. But we cannot live their lives for them. So we have to give them the time and their education, and also the time for them to fail and keep trying, and for them to understand they will adopt healthier life practices if you also do it, and they watch you do it and over the years, but don't expect miracles.
That's really great advice, ma'am. In fact, I feel, I mean, as a parent, now you're teaching your children. I mean, in my case, I see when I was small, I was young, my parents will tell me, ki, eat this, eat your vegetables, and all those normal stuff. now that I have grown up, I feel my parents are now turned into a child because, as you mentioned, I mean, diabetes is really, I mean, it's kind of an epidemic, I would say, in India. I'm not sure about rest of the world because my father is diabetic, and I now have to become a sort of parent and guide him. No, no, you can't have it. Now the rules have reversed. I wanted to ask you, I mean, what are the key takes that you have on a diabetic diet? Because I think it will help really a lot of people.
So this is a very common thing. What you're facing, Shashank, is a lot of
Yeah.
Indian families have the exact same thing. I have also seen that. There are a few problems when you approach to try to solve this, problem. The one of the problems is that they have they have spent 60, 70 years eating certain type of food. Their palate is always used to that. For you to ask them to make that change at that age in their life, at that stage in their life, they'll say ki, Mujhe, it doesn't
Mm,
suit my
mm,
stomach. What are you giving me? I'm not used to
mm,
this. Give me my dal chawal.
mm.
They will have their own said practices.
Yeah.
But doing that has led them to this point. So you have to kind of change track a little bit. Um, so very simple things I can tell you is you look at study up glycemic index, right? Though that is
Okay.
basically what you eat, how your body responds to it. Okay, so for example, if you eat sugar, like the glucose, you avoid
Yeah.
bread, you put it in your tongue, you will get a glycemic response of 100 is the number. So that is your baseline. So then you want to try and go as low as possible because then whatever you're eating will not cause that insulin spike in your body, and that's what you're trying to do. So, for example, if you see barley, it's in the mid 20s, which is a very great grain to have because of the way the barley is as a grain it is, it's formed. I can get into the details, but let's not do that. Um,
Sure.
it just has an extremely low glycemia. So if you're eating barley for night, instead of having a bowl of rice or something, try to have barley instead. Same with black rice. For example, has a glycemic index of 44, which is really great because it takes you time to digest it and the sugars to rise. So you can make those swaps. So you don't have to say change your completely, start eating salads
Mm,
now. That is
mm.
not going to happen. So
Yeah.
you can make those swaps, go away from the grain size. So when you eat something in powdery form, instantly your body is going and making into sugar and it's reacting
Yeah.
to it. If you eat something that requires you to chew it and
Sure.
it requires you to digest it and then it takes time, then it slowly your body is digesting. So then you want to go with something that is a lot more bigger grain size. Go towards that rather than stay away from flours. Also try to what else can I say? Try to check. So anytime you change your diet, you have to check your body's response to it. That is something my mother is very good at, which is that she will check if she's changing. Let's say, so this week she's trying millets. Okay, so let's say
Yeah.
we are
Yeah.
trying some millet. Um, like and then so you have every day instead of rice with sambar, you say you have that particular
Yeah.
whatever millet you're having. So
Yeah.
you check your sugar the previous week with the rice and the next week with that, and so see how your body is responding. And if your body is seeing that drop, and there may be day-to-day variation, but if it is a significant drop, then obviously that's a better choice for you. So you have to make that connection between how your body is responding, whether you like the taste, whether it can be a good substitute. So if you can be patient and work with them and help them, if they give these choices, like say, try this dana, try this one,
Yeah.
then I think they also want change,
Yeah.
but they just don't want change your way, your method. Just so work with them on that.
So sometimes they even resort to emotional means like you are not letting me eat. This is not I have the way I have raised you. I mean, we gave you. So that's really, I mean, that's a great advice that you gave. So basically, you are saying that watch out for the glycemic index. and then also monitor what you are eating and how your
Yes.
body is responding to it, and then sort of develop your own diet. And that I think is particular to uh, any person. I mean, it's not a standard diet that you can give out, right?
100%. I think a person who is more checking and having that constant awareness key what is happening in my body, typically I've seen them have healthier lifestyles than a person who says, "Nahi, 6 months ke baad hum dekhenge," like we'll go to the doctor. You're like, you're not caring what your body, what you're putting your body through. So you be a little bit more. So when you start checking, then oh, that day I ate that, that namkeen. So,
Yeah.
this happened. So you have that running in the back of your mind and you're constantly stopping yourself. It's just like a person who checks their weight or who's like more aware of what's happening. You can
Yeah.
instantly correct rather than waiting for your doctor's results to come,
Too late.
then making some big change to come. Now, it's a little bit harder.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about so much. I mean, food choices, cooking style, and now that lastly that you brought out, okay, keep monitoring and all stuff. I wonder. I mean, sometimes do we really get far fetched into this? I mean, what is the psychology behind? I mean, I personally, what I do is I love to eat. I like my food. I like my paneer. I like my cheese. I like all the stuffs that are there in, especially in vegetarian form. So for that, I work out hard. So, and 80% of the time I'm making healthy choices, and 20% is my guilt-free food that I eat. What is your take on it? Do we get so much into analyzing and are we really enjoying our food or living our life?
Uh, I think that, I think that is a loaded question, right? I feel okay, so I'll give you an example. When I was married and my in-laws are very health conscious from quite a bit back, and they would eat raw foods on certain days. They would have satsangs and they would have that, and then they would have sprouting. So they do a lot of healthy practices beginning. And when I was at that age, it was in my 20s and things. And for me, I'd be like, what is all this, right? Like it's too much work and all that. And
Yeah.
I have eaten their food. It's delicious, right? I have said mind blown key with raw foods and things. They make such excellent meals. It takes time, but it is so worth it. You feel great the next day, right? So I said, oh, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not going to spend my time making it because it's not,
Hmm.
I am busy working woman, right? That is my
Hmm.
mentality. So I don't do that, like in my 20s and 30s. Now I am drawn to that. So over time, I'm drawn to it. In fact, I feel when my daughter wants to eat pizza, when she orders pizza, I cannot eat it. I don't enjoy
Yeah.
it. So you have to give your, I think over time, your body will seek, the more you eat fresh food and healthy food, your body will seek it out, is what I feel. And at least I've seen. Because every time when I was going on these fad diets in my 20s,
Hmm.
I would get these sugar filled drinks and I would think it would, oh, yeah, this is the life, right? Like I would have it. I would feel that sugar up and down, crash and burn. I would feel hungry, insanely hungry. I would worry so much about, am I putting the right calories in? I don't do any such thing. There's so much of drama about food in my 20s and 30s. I feel now, though, I eat a healthy meal, I make healthy meals. I look forward to eating a meal and I try to make sure that I use as much vegetables as possible. So even my husband, he craves green food sometimes. He said, like, make something green. So why do we do that? Our body is itself giving the signal it wants it. So in between, you have your ice creams, you have your gulab
Yeah.
jamun, you have your rasgulla. Nobody is stopping you. If you, in fact, you cut yourself off so much, you're not an actor, actress. You're not, your
Yeah.
lifestyle, your job, profession is not dependent on the way you look. So what do you want to do? You want to live a healthy lifestyle.
True.
You want to live a lifestyle where you're pursuing your creative goals. You're being a good mother. So what's up then? Huh? I don't want to spend all my time and energy just obsessing about it. So I have found that over time, I have figured out that if I eat healthy food, fresh food, like you said, 80%, 90%. We still eat out on the weekends. We love that. So that's our family ritual. So we eat out on the weekends. My kids look forward to it. They plan the menu ahead. So what's up? That is totally normal. You don't want to go on the extreme health bandwagon and
Yeah.
say everything cut. So then what will happen? The people around you will be miserable. They'll try to sneak in food.
Yeah.
So I
And
think a
that is, I
balance.
think, yeah, you brought out right point. I mean, it in the long term, it's not going to be sustainable. If you cut out everything, then what's the point? I believe. And also, I mean, the point that you said, I mean, our body kind of adapts. I mean, especially with sugar. If you just go cold turkey and stop eating sugar, you will initially crave for a minute, for a day, 2 3 days, but after that you are off. I mean, you find, if you accidentally eat sugar, you feel कि अरे ये क्या खा लिया मैंने. So I guess that's how
Yeah,
our body adapt, right?
yeah, yeah. I think people who eat healthy foods, they start getting happier. They feel a lot more stable with the healthier foods. If you're eating bars and drinks every day, right? Like taking this,
Yeah.
carrying those power bars and things.
Mhm.
I feel that some kind of sensation that I've not eaten properly, that I go around carrying that empty sensation in me, right? My mind is not sharp. Like I have not eaten my sabzis and my dals and stuff, and I feel like I cannot focus as much. So I feel like I've shortchanged my body. I've given it a sugar hit, but I feel like I've not really fed it. But that you'll learn. Like I didn't do this in my 20s. I did that in my 30s and later in my 40s. I feel like I can ready to embrace it. So I feel do your journey, take your journey. Don't be so hard on yourself. You will find your way around. And if you're taking your health seriously, it's great. If taking your health seriously in your
Yeah.
20s, that's great. Learn cooking. I would really urge everybody to learn cooking. Go into the kitchen, do something, figure it out, like sustain yourself.
Experiment.
Don't expect your wife and your mother or anybody to do
True.
that for you. Make your own healthy choices. Bas, this zindagi will be good.
That's a really great note to end, ma'am. So before we go, I just want to bring out your website is upgradebyfood.com and
Yes,
the Twitter handle
WW.
is same.
Yeah, at upgrade underscore
My
my underscore food. Yeah, I
okay.
think. Just type
I
in
guess
upgrade my food,
yeah, upgrade
and
my
then it
food.
should
It
come
will
up.
come up, and you will
Yeah.
find a lot of gems, Twitter threads that a lot of hard work just presented you on a literally a platter, I would say.
Thank you.
And you have come up recently with your course as well. Tell us about that before we go.
Sure. So I'm doing a cooking course with an online cooking class on Zoom, and it's a monthly course. So I've split it into 4 categories: grains, dals and lentils, and then vegetables, and then snacks and desserts. So I'm telling you, I'm not giving you recipes, right? A recipe is like we'll do one recipe at the end of it, but I'm telling you how to build the framework for it. So how do you recognize? For example, yesterday we had our rice session, and I talked about how much water do you add to your rice? Like, how do you determine that? How do you know which way to cook? Is it stove top or is it pressure cooker? So which grain is better for you? Which grain you need? What happens if you roast the rice and then cook it? What happens if you soak the rice and then cook it? So all of these, some chefs are telling you one method, you're seeing other chef doing another method, and you're like confused. So if you understand the principles of what is happening when these processes are happening, you will know that their end result will be a dish which is more dana dana separate. You will find a dish that is more cohesive, like a pongal or a khichdi. So what do you want to do for that? So I will help you understand ki kya ho raha hai when you do these steps. So that when you see a recipe, you read it and you're like, aha, so they are doing this, they're doing that.
Yeah.
So that is the background I want to help you. So that is one of my passion thing, is to understand cooking from the ground up, not recipe down. I want to understand.
Top down.
So I am trying to do.
That's really great. I mean, a lot of people would want to attend that. So how can we, I mean, find more about that?
So if you go to my website, upgrademyfood.com, it's upgrademyfood.com. The post is on vegan cooking class. It's the very second post, and you will find all the information on it about payment and things like that. This session has started, the September session. Unless somebody is really serious about like they want to do it, and we can prorate it based on the sessions you've missed, or you can
Sure.
wait for the October session, and I will have a complete session. This time I'm doing it for the US participants because I'm doing a dry run. It's almost like a pilot run.
Mm.
So the next month I would like to have two courses with the schedule like this timing so that it's
Yeah.
great for Indian people to come in and try in the kitchen, and have one parallel course running there and then one parallel course running. I've got a really good response. I am so thankful to everybody
Mm.
who's like willing to spread the word for me. So I feel very happy. Like people are willing to give it a chance and try these things. I hope, fingers crossed, that I can make this course continuously through the offer it like every month and become a success.
That's very noble approach to it, ma'am. And I think we need more people like you to create awareness and let people know. Actually, I mean, as you mentioned, it's not just the recipe approach or the top-down approach; it's the bottom-up approach also. I mean, how does it really affect you, and how you can easily, without spending too much time, make good and healthy choices. Thank you so much, ma'am, for taking time out, and it's my pleasure to host you, and I'm sure a lot of people will find value in this and as your course as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shashank. Thank you.
Goodbye, ma'am. Take care.